You're listening to Crushing Club Marketing, a podcast for progressive club leaders ready to increase their club's revenue. Time for change begins right now. The essence of a private club is uniting people with shared values and passions. When a club fails to connect with these interests, its future is at risk. Today's clubs face a critical challenge, balancing new member values with cherished traditions. In this episode, Dr. Bonnie Knutson, hospitality professor at Michigan State, joins me to explore where tradition meets tomorrow and what clubs should focus on in the years ahead. Thank you for joining me in this episode. I'm really excited about today's conversation because we're diving into a topic that I think we all know is pretty critical for every club. Plus, I get to talk to a fellow Michigan State Spartan. So before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about our guest today, Dr. Bonnie Knutson. She is a self-described people watcher and a professor in the School of Hospitality Business at Michigan State University. She brings a unique perspective to our conversation as not just an academic expert, but also as a private club member and an avid golfer. Now, you may recognize her name as a regular contributor to Boardroom Magazine, where she shares her insights on club management and member experience. But she's also an instructor at CMAA's Business Management Institute, and she's been involved with that program for more than 20 years. In our conversation, Dr. Knutson and I explore how private clubs are navigating the delicate balance between honoring traditions and adapting to changing member values. We discussed the shift from exclusivity being the main draw in years past to private club membership to what is now a greater focus on relationships and the overall member experience. Dr. Knutson also points out today's members, especially the younger generations, are looking for a sense of belonging and meaningful connections rather than just status. One of the fascinating concepts she talks about is she calls it her value equation. And it's this idea that value that a member receives, the value equals experience minus cost. And what I love about the whole idea with the value equation is that cost isn't just about money. It's about time, and the time that you invest and the time that you spend getting to a club, at the activities and enjoying the amenities of the club. That is part of the value equation. And it's just really simple formula. It helps to explain why clubs need to really think about enhancing their experiences or reducing the barriers to participating in various events and activities at their clubs. We also talk about the importance of really understanding what matters to your members, why it's what Dr. Knutson calls the witty principle. What is important to you? And throughout the conversation, she talks about the witty principle as well, and really also paying attention to the characteristics that make your club unique. So with that, Bonnie and I connected on an early spring day, just as the golf courses were opening around Michigan. So here's my conversation with Dr. Bonnie Knutson. Bonnie, thanks so much for joining me.
It's good to be here. The sun is out. Our sticks are not in the holes yet on the club, but I'm got a hole pretty soon.
You're getting ready, huh? Did you play at all during the winter? Did you play during the winter at all?
No, I'm not. I go pretty much inside during the winter, but my husband, when he was alive, his goal was to play at least once every month in the Lansing area without having to go down to Florida.
Wow, that was bold, especially in Lansing, Michigan, or East Lansing, Michigan. Hey, we're both Spartans, which I completely appreciate, and this is just
Go
by
green.
chance. Yeah, go white. And but let's start out with this. How did you from your career? How did you get in with the club industry?
I sometimes wonder that myself. Well, in a way, it started when I was just toddling around because my father was one of these born athletes. There wasn't a sport that he could not do. And so I was taught at a very young age the value between athletics and human nature, and of course, health and well-being, but also to understand people, because as he always said to me, the way people behave on the golf course is how they behave in life and in business. So understanding if they're going to cheat on the golf course, they're going to cheat in business. If they're not, they're not. So I was taught the intersection of life and athletics, noticeably golf, because that was his number one passion. And I was taught, number one, I carried his bag as soon as I could walk, I think. But he made sure I knew the etiquette of the game, the value of the game, and how it benefited life in general. So I would say ever since I could put a pair of shoes on and tie them.
Wow. Yeah. And then as a professor in hospitality,
Mhm.
this is an area that you have developed an expertise in, and you're known for nationally and internationally because of your dad.
Well, it started with him. I mean, I come from an Italian American family, so just so the club's got a pasta dish on the menu and I'm happy. We have been members of the club. My husband, when he was alive, we were members of the club. I'm still a member of the Lansing Country Club. And I have the privilege of teaching at CMAA, Club Managers Association of America, their BMI, their Business Management Institute, third level. So I'm not only fortunate to be able to impart ideas to them, but I get ideas from them. So it's a beautiful two-way street that I've valued for all these years. But yeah, it's the old thing. It's the experience, stupid, instead of the money, stupid, or the economy, stupid, as Carville says. It's the experience, because if you're not going to have a good experience for the extra money it costs to go to a club, why do you go to the club? I can walk into Target and buy a sweater, and it doesn't cost me anything except a sweater. I can't step foot on my club property for free. I am paying for the privilege of stepping on that and experiencing a golf course, dining, tennis courts, or now pickleball courts, swimming pool, that I can get other places that I don't have to pay to enjoy.
Mhm.
So it's got to be something beside the physical side of it.
Right. That's one of the things, I mean, that I wanted to dive into in this conversation is really the fact that, I mean, you have the unique perspective and context of seeing the evolution of the club industry over a number of years. I'd love your thought and your perspective on the idea of exclusivity and what that means as it relates to creating an experience that is going to be memorable for members. And how has exclusivity changed in that way, and how do people see it today versus how they used to see it?
All right, let me ask you a quick question. By any chance, are you a hunter?
I'm not.
Okay, if you were a hunter and you wanted to have venison for dinner, and you went out with your shotgun and you saw Bambi running across the field, where would you aim your gun?
In front of where Bambi is going.
Good answer. I think I'll give you a 4-point on that exam. This is one of the issues that, in my mind, the club industry has had to overcome to stay relevant. And that is the idea that they're more immediate than looking down the road. Part of it can stem from the fact that most of the policies in clubs are directed or generated through their board of directors. Boards of directors are generally made up of very good club members, very active, very smart people, but they don't know how to run a club.
Mm-hmm.
They're not club managers. And so they tend to look more to the immediate than what's coming down the road. So that kind of setting that the change in how people look at exclusivity, the value they put on exclusivity, what means exclusive status and everything has changed as generations changed.
Mm-hmm. Can we just dive? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Were you going to say?
Go ahead.
Something? I was just going to ask you in that way that, and you and I have had this conversation previous to this recording, but it's the idea that certainly when you were caddying for your father, the idea of exclusivity is different, or the idea of a private club and status is different than it was, say, 30 years ago than it is today. It's like, there was a time that people, I remember, not long ago, people joined a club and it was a matter of status. It's like, I have become a member. It's like, I've arrived in this way. But the younger generation doesn't really see it the same way.
They don't see it that way, and they can get it in other ways. The way they define status is different than what you and I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be, and again, I go back to my childhood, and even when Bob was alive, the two of us in business, if we wanted to meet and interact with the movers and shakers in the world, where did you go? You went to the club. Well, that has changed. I can meet them on a plane flying to Paris. I can meet them paddling a canoe and a pair of jeans down the river.
Mm-hmm.
They're into more of an experiential element than just the physical trappings of a private club. Do they like the attention? Yes. Do I like the attention? Yes. But I can get that other places, not just at a private club. So their idea of exclusivity, the younger generations particularly, is totally different. And you put the idea of inclusivity in there, and you've got a generational difference in that, how much that inclusivity means. And that's important to the younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
The Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, they were raised on inclusivity, and that's part of their DNA. And so if they're going to spend the money and the time and the effort to join a private club, they want their friends who may be different than they are to be able to be there too.
Mm-hmm.
Or they have the ability to be there too.
So what do club leaders have? What are they missing when they think, like, we want a very, their vision for the club is 25 years ago, right? That they want to create that magic of that time. Like, what are they missing, or what are they maybe not seeing?
Maybe they have to climb up on a telephone wire.
Yeah.
I asked you earlier if you remember the old comedian Red Skelton, and you, I know you're not 29, maybe you're 30, but you did remember him, as I did, and that is what I kind of am, and that's what the leadership in the club industry has to kind of move to. Those of you that are listening to this and may remember Red Skelton would remember that he had a character or characters, and that was two old birds, two old crows that used to sit on a telephone wire, and they would look down and see patterns. And they could see where everybody was going, not where they have been or where they are, but where they're going. And it's kind of like when you're in an airplane, you look out the window and you see the total landscape, you see the movement down below you. That's what a lot of leadership doesn't have. The understanding that you've got to see where people are going. When you're a hunter, you aim in front of the prey. You don't aim at the prey. And we get all tied up in what's today, what's the problem we have to solve today, instead of thinking what's the problem we have to solve 5 years down. Mm-hmm. I'm a big proponent of what I call backcasting. Most people forecast. And when you forecast, you're really limiting your thinking. Instead of backcasting like Walt Disney used to do, where do we want to be or have to be 5 years from now to be sustainable? Well, if we have to be at X 5 years from now, then at year 4, we have to be here. At year 3, we have to be there. At year 2, over here. Year 1, and next door. And so I have to start planning for year 1 to get to year 5. We tend to be more immediate. And that's where, in my judgment, the club industry really needs to practice more, or to think about more. What is that backcasting model look like in my club?
What are you seeing progressive clubs doing, like in that spirit, when they're trying to create an exclusive experience, or they're trying to create an experience that will really be meaningful, especially to a younger demographic that is considering a club? What are the things that they really should consider, especially in this time when so many clubs are making enhancements?
Those of you that may live in the Chicago area, Marshall Field's, the famous department store. I'm still mad that Macy's bought it, because I used to love going there, particularly for their Christmas tree. Anyway, there's an old story that a young cub reporter was sent up to ask Marshall Field, when he was president, or when he founded the company, why he was so much more successful than any other department stores in the country. And there was a time prior to department stores where everything was kind of segmented. If you wanted a hat, you went to a milliner. If you wanted a suit, you went to a tailor. If you wanted shoes, you went to a cobbler. It was the Marshall Fields of the world that developed the concept of a department store, one building with different departments. All right, he was the most successful of all of them. He wasn't necessarily the nicest guy in the world, but he was very successful. And so this young reporter asked him, why, Mr. Field, are you more successful than anybody else? And he said, simply, I ask the lady what she wants, and then I sell it to her. There is the tendency, and this is not just clubs, this is just business in general, that we're so busy, the world is changing so fast, that we're always putting fires out that are right in front of us, instead of looking at what kindling might be those 5 years down the road and trying to think ahead, because we don't have the time to think ahead. I mean, it used to be if somebody wanted information, you had some lead time, I'll mail it to you. And so you rush there and find it, and whew, I'll make the, now, just attach it. Hello.
Yeah, right.
Information is doubling every 4 hours, I think it is now.
Wow. So when you think about that experience, and the value, I guess maybe is really what it is for clubs to really think about is, how do they create the type of value for their members and for their prospective members today versus, back when Marshall Fields was, right?
To me, the first thing they've got to do is understand a very simple algebraic equation. V, which stands for value, equals E, which stands for experience, minus P, which stands for the price or the cost of getting that experience. So very simply, the equation is V equals E minus P. The only way you can increase the value of club membership to me as a member, because you're asking for my time, my energy, my money, my endorsement, you're asking for a lot of stuff from me. The only way I can do that is, the only way you can increase the value is one of two ways. You either increase the experience or you decrease the price. And I don't know of any club that's decreasing the price. What is interesting about the price is how it's measured. It's not just measured anymore by dollars, yen, francs, euros, by money. People measure price or the cost of doing something in terms of money plus time, their time. Is it worth my time to get out of my sweats, put on a pair of nice slacks and a sweater to go out to the club for dinner? Is it worth my time to hassle with the club about the details in a wedding for my child? Is it worth my time to have to search out different information because I want to take my business meeting there for a creative strategy session? So time is money. It's the old saying. Baby boomers will ask, what's the one thing you wish you had more of? Number one thing, time. So clubs have to understand this equation value is changing. I always tell them to think of it in terms of the Witty principle, WIITI. Club manager and club people are so proud of what they've done. They want to talk product. They want to talk about the beautiful ballroom, about the new sand traps they've put on, about the pickleball court, because people are playing pickleball versus tennis anymore. They want to talk about the product. Well, the Witty principle would say, I don't really care about the pickleball court. I want to know what's in it for me. WIITI, Witty principle in action. What is important to you? If people think in terms of which means when they're talking about their club, and I'm talking about management here, we have a new ballroom, which means what for you as the member? We just put all new sand in our sand traps, which means, what does that mean to you? I don't care what you've done. I care what it means to me. What's the value of me? Should I spend my time and my money? So that idea of turning the product around to the value, what is important to you? Marshall Fields, I ask the lady what she wants and then I sell it to her. Mm-hmm. That's the mindset. And those two simple words, if club managers tack those two words on to anything they think about relative to the membership and turn it around and say, which means, what does that mean to the membership? Mm-hmm. How does that increase the value of their time and their money to belong to the club and be active in the club and promote the club?
What I love about the equation is that you're right. Clubs are not getting less expensive. In fact, they're getting more expensive, and initiation fees have been rising. Now, who knows when recent events how that might change, but that's certainly been the trend. It's that experience part. And when you think about the cost, like you're saying, which is your money and the time, which is just so. That's one thing I think we forget about is that. If I'm going to spend, and we want our members to spend a lot of time at the club and to use the club and come back again and again. If your club's a little bit of a destination, you really want them to have that experience. But you said something that really caught my ear as well, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is that it's not necessarily the amenities that make the experience. What are the things that clubs should really focus on as it relates to creating that kind of experience that makes a member want to, spend the time and come back again and again?
or as the younger generations would call it, Grandma, it's got to be Instagrammable.
Right.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Oh, I just was on a cruise with my younger daughter. We were gone for a week in the Atlantic, stopping at Argentina and Brazil and stuff. And the people that were taking pictures of their dinner plates in the restaurants or in our lounge was incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, that's the experience.
Right.
That's the experience.
How do you create that experience that is, Instagrammable?
The only way it's Instagrammable and special is if nobody else can do it. What is it at your club that you own. Our club used to have instead of rolls and bread, we used to have popovers. Oh God, they were good, fresh, warm, and that would be brought with your salad or your appetizers.
Right.
I mean, my mouth is drooling thinking of it. The
Right.
cost goes away, time goes away, and we don't have it anymore. They lost that uniqueness. So I can get bread and rolls at any nice restaurant in town. So that diminishes the value because it's diminished the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Experience cost is going up, time and value is going down. So what is it unique that you can do that your member can't get anywhere else?
Right. And it's not, yeah, right. And it's not necessarily an amenity, but maybe what happens around those things, right? And it's whether you have special events or certain events that you can really only enjoy in those places. Are there industries that you look at or business segments that you look at that you say like, wow, they're really innovating in a certain area, or they're really pushing to change? I know that not to say this is the one, but I know you've been doing more work in athletics and in creating fan experiences. The game in a stadium hasn't changed. There are games that have been played in arenas for decades and decades and decades. But are there, like that, whether it is that, are there other industries that are really sort of that you look at observationally from the telephone wire that you're like, wow, they are really pushing that experience?
Oh, you mentioned athletics. First one that pops into mind, of course, is Savannah Bananas.
Wait, what's that? Just in case people don't know.
Savannah Bananas, it's a minor league baseball team down in the South in Savannah. Everybody go to the website and just Google it up. I look at it this way. If you've ever marched in a parade, you know that everybody is marching lockstep going down in a band or something, going down the street. You notice the totality. You don't notice the individual. If the individual wants to get noticed, they're going to pick up the flag and they're going to march in the other direction. What is your club able to do that your members cannot get anywhere else? And it can be something as simple as a popover. You mentioned events. One hint I would give to anyone that's listening to this podcast is go to a website called nationalcalendar.org, I think it is, or .something, but it's the National Calendar. There is a calendar in there, and this is one of my go-tos, where there are special days, special weeks, special months every day in the year. There's special donut day. There's special dog day. There's in June, there's special Donald Duck Day. And I have a Donald Duck a party every year at my house because I love Donald Duck. He and I beat on the same drum. We both get in trouble, although we want to be good people.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned events, everybody has Mother's Day. Everybody has Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
How many clubs have Grandparents' Day?
Mm.
Yet, what's the most important thing to a grandparent? Grandchildren.
Right, spending time with family. Yeah.
What about celebrating April 15th, Tax Day?
Right.
Just think of how you could incorporate the Monopoly game.
Right.
You can have the little markers, the little cars and stuff on the table. You can have your servers serving with money or their pockets pulled out because Uncle Sam has taken it all.
Money, right.
You can have your menu structured so that the pricing is all 1040.
Right. Yeah.
It's looking at, and that's 2 days around, St. Patrick's Day or something. Everybody does St. Patrick's Day. The parade is going that way. Pick up a flag. go the other way. That calendar thing is absolutely my go-to.
Yeah. It's the idea of innovating, right? I mean, it's the
Bingo.
idea of saying, let's start thinking of things that we haven't done in the past and
Yeah.
that make it memorable. And I think, sometimes it seems to me like, and this is not just in the club industry, this is in a lot of industries or organizations where they're afraid to try it because what if it doesn't go over well? What if it doesn't work? And instead of saying, that was a dud, let's try something else next time, it becomes well, let's not do anything because, I don't want to get the bad feedback,
Yeah,
you know?
very much so. The other thing clubs, in my mind, historically have not done, but they're going to have to think about doing and doing in the right way, is for years and years, because of the exclusivity, because of the privacy, all that good stuff, they have not taken advantage of structuring some type of a public relations program. Clubs do phenomenal things for a lot of charities. There's the First Tee Club. They sponsor scholarships in the Evans program. I've seen so many things. They'll donate a dinner for a charity event, but it's always been, well, it's not nice to brag.
Right.
And so the bragging isn't an element, but it breaks down this snobbishness of the word exclusivity, because exclusivity has changed, particularly for the younger generation. They want things nice, but they want inclusivity.
Right. There's this weird, I think it's a weird notion that it's like, I can't share too much of who I am, or else people would think I'm not exclusive. Like if I am a club, that if our club is saying, making it easy to find things out about who we are, then we certainly can't be exclusive. And, that just, to me, that's a miss. It's like exclusivity and approachability are not,
they're not the same thing.
Right. You can be
they're not
both.
the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think is the greatest threat to private clubs? Is you think about the evolution, and especially a younger demographic and how that's constantly changing and their value system is changing? What do you think is the biggest threat?
What is it Pogo said? I have met the enemy and he is us. I think the biggest threat, that's a good question. Which way do we turn on that one? To me, the biggest threat from a club standpoint is that information is changing so fast, the consumer is changing so fast, the economy is changing so fast that we don't have enough time to think and get out in front of it. I can remember as a kid laying in the backyard on a blanket and looking up at the clouds and I went, oh, that cloud looks like a fire engine. What does this, where's your think time? And if you can't think, the mind is like spaghetti sauce. You put a lot of different things into it, but to make spaghetti sauce really taste good, and you're talking to an Italian here, you got to leave it sit for a couple of days, and it always tastes better the next day or the day after. All right, our minds are like this big pot. We put in different pieces of information that we glean. Sometimes we don't even know we're getting it. And then all of a sudden you're in the shower and you go, oh my gosh, wow, what we could do this. And it's the lack of time from a manager's standpoint. There's a futurist that I follow sometimes, and he said technology in the world, that's the new Bible, I think, is technology. Everybody's talking about technology is the how things will be done. The human is the why of that being done. So if we can't figure out the why, technology isn't going to help us do the what for our members.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of going back to what we're talking about, the hunter. The other quote is Wayne Gretzky, go where the puck is going to be,
Yeah.
not where it is, you know,
Yeah, same thing.
that idea. And we don't make enough time to, you know, as strategists in many ways, right? To really think like, where do we need to be? How do we elevate the experience? How do we, let's take a second and think about what can we do in this coming year to say, you know, what new things can we innovate and what new, we actually have a client. It's interesting. He just hired someone to help him implement all of his ideas because he's an idea guy. And he's like, hey, I got an idea. What if we do this to enhance that experience, to make it that place that you can't get this anywhere else? And not everyone maybe is like this one general manager, but that idea to take the time to be able to do that, how valuable that is.
Yeah, there's a couple of other things along that line too. It's, you know, I said, listen to your member to see how they describe the club. Is it they're going to my club or the club?
Right.
I've got some weird tools. I do a lot of research on the experience, customer experience, fan experience, patient experience. And I've got a couple of things I always are in my toolbox. Number one, you got to remember perception is reality.
Mm-hmm.
You perceive something and I perceive something totally different, but it's our reality. It's very hard for members to articulate their connection with their club. It's just hard to do. That's an emotional thing.
Right.
Ask them, if you could describe your club by an animal, what would that animal be? I don't care about the animal. That's just a hook for them to visualize something. You follow up with, why that animal? Why a teddy bear? Why a gorilla? Why an octopus? Because that's what you're going to get. That's where you're going to understand their relationship. And you've got to understand their position so you know how to be there for them, to be in front of that position. Because oftentimes what you think isn't reality. I was working with a club and they, like many clubs, we're trying to get members out there during midweek, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Weekends, fine. Midweek, okay. So they said, well, what it is we're too expensive. We're just too expensive. We got to drop the price. I said, are you sure? No, yeah, we're too expensive. Bottom line is we did research and we found out why they weren't coming. And the other thing we did is we took the club's menu and compared it to the restaurants where they said they were going. And we found something interesting. A, the menu items were very similar. And B, the prices were within 25 cents of each other. They were real close. It had nothing to do with the cost. We start delving. It was the perception that they had to get, quote unquote, dressed up more to go to a club. You come home from the office, you start stripping as you walk through the house and you're in jeans or sweats by the time you hit the family room. And oh God, I don't feel like. All right, so how do you, at least I know what it is.
Right.
So you're trying to get into that relationship. How do you feel about it? The other tool I use a lot is and it was taken from my father. He used to tell me, Bonnie, if you can't tell me 20 things about our customers, you don't know them. I don't know why the 20, but he always said 20.
Yeah.
And boy, if I couldn't articulate 20, woo, we were in for a discussion.
Yeah, I'll help you. Right.
but I do that with managers, and they'll go right through the first 10, the demographics. They're married, they live here, they blah, blah, blah. When you start getting into the emotional, they start slowing down at 10 to 15. Very few can get to 20. I have them do that with their staff. I have them do that with their board. 9 times out of 10, the 3 lists are not even close to each other. So if you've got management, board, staff seeing the same thing but seeing it differently, how can you have a focused strategy to please your membership?
Right.
These are just tricks and tried and true tricks that I've developed over the years. I've never seen them in a textbook, but they work.
Right. It seems like clubs used to be able to get away with a lot of the ways they operated in the past, but with the way that the world is changing and the way people are changing in information and opportunities and options, that they don't have as much flexibility to stay doing it the way they've done it.
That's because what's the experience? How is it different and valuable to me?
Mm-hmm. Right. Back to the Whitty principle.
Yeah. What is important to you? And as the cost in time goes up, as the cost of money goes up, the only way that value goes up is if the experience goes up higher and faster.
Yeah. It's
real simple.
You've talked to a lot of general managers through the years, and you've done a lot of education. What is is there any one thing that you usually like to leave your classes or your groups with, as far as just one thought, especially with the management stuff you do?
Outside of telling them to go support the Spartans,
yeah,
to pray for the Spartans, I guess part of it is, and this is just me, I have joy in what I do. I have joy in helping people help people. So if you don't have joy in helping people, you got to find a place where you have joy, because if you're not having fun, get out of the business, go someplace else.
Perfect.
I like being the old crow on top of the telephone wire.
Well, you've had a great spot for a lot of years. So
yep.
I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your perspective and your insight.
Anytime, man. Yeah. It's been a joy.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bonnie. Go green.
Go white.
And thank you for listening. If you find episodes like this helpful, be sure to share it and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're using. Until next time, keep crushing your club marketing.